Okay, well, let's talk the next type. Let's talk factoring trinomials. And by trinomial, what do I mean? We've got three terms, okay? We do have three terms. X cubed plus 8x plus 12. Like I mentioned before, GCF, you always want to look to see if there's a GCF involved, and is there a GCF for these three? No. I don't have a x in all of them. This one has a coefficient of 1, so can't very well have anything common with the others, so no GCF here. Well, let's think about this, and some of you may already know what it is, but don't spoil the fun here for the others. Let's go through it though. The way I like to explain it, how this works, is this. If I go back to my multiplying, let's say I have x plus 5 times x plus 6. Yeah, it turns out if I multiply those, what do I get as far as a polynomial out of that? Don't I get a trinomial? X times x gives me x squared. X times 6 gives me 6x. 5 times x gives me 5x. And then 5 times 6 gives me 30. But we turn it into a trinomial because those two combine to be 11x in the middle. All right. So if I reverse that, of course, if I factor this, wouldn't it make sense that I would get that? Factoring is just writing it as a product of two or more things. That is a product of two things. All right. Well, if you'll notice there, first of all, the trinomial factored into what? Two binomials? Same thing's going to happen over here. This trinomial will factor, if it factors, into two binomials. All right? Now, notice the way I like to, since it's two binomials, I've got two slots in each. Slot here, and then a slot for the other binomial there. And if you'll notice, this first slot here in each came from where? Well, it came from the x squared, didn't it? Or the x squared is where those came from. Well, I've got the very same thing here. I've got x squared, so guess what here and here has to be? An x and an x. Yep. All right. Now, the other two slots, if you'll notice, those two multiply together, right, and give me the last term. So these two must be multiplied together to get 12, all right? Okay, like I said, if you know already the answer, hang on for just a second. All right, now, the thing is, let's think about factors of 12 then, because that's what I need here and here, factors of 12. The thing of it is, right, there's many ways to factor 12. You can say 12 is 3 times 4. You can say 12 is 2 times 6. And you can even say 12 is 1 times 12, can't you? Well, it's not just our choice. Which one? Flip a coin or throw a dart and get one, whichever one you want. Now, what you'll notice here is, yeah, this term, middle term, is linked into it too, isn't it? Because if you'll notice, yeah, 6 times 5 gives me 30, but what about 11? That's 5 plus 6. Yeah, if I add those two together, I get that middle term's coefficient, don't I? So here's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm going to look at factors of this, but then I'm also going to think sums of the factors. Because in my case here, I'm wanting, I need a pair of factors of that, but I need those factors to add to be the 8, don't I? Just like these added to be 11, 5 and 6 did, added to be 11. I need the factors here to add up to be the 8. Well, if you look at them, do these have to be 8? No. Do these add up to be 8? The 1 and the 12? No, 13. What about 2 and 6, though? There you go. By the process of elimination there, we see that the factors of 12 I need are the 2 and the 6, aren't they? So I need the 2 here, 6 here, one possibility. Now it is necessary to have a sign, but since everything's positive, there's no catch there. Those are positive as well. We have successfully factored our trinomial into 2 binomials. Okay? The other thing to mention here, I put x plus 2, x plus 6, but would this be wrong? If I reverse the 6 and the 2. Now, sometimes putting the 6 and the 2 in the different places changes it, but here, these are exactly the same, aren't they? It's just 2 different orders. This is x plus 6, got the x plus 6 here. Here's x plus 2, I've got the x plus 2 here. These are the same thing, so x plus 6, x plus 2, x plus 2, x plus 6, whichever is right. Either one is right. Okay? All right, now, of course, what can happen is minuses and things of that sort, so let's talk a few more little things here. All right, so we're going to factor another trinomial. X, this is going to be x squared minus 8x minus 20. All right, so trinomial, so my thinking is there's no GCF. Is there GCF? No, no GCF. So we're going to factor it into 2 binomials. What we saw was then, in my 4 slots here, basically these 2 come from where? These 2 come from this, and then the other 2, the end ones, come from this. Well, the first 2 come from x squared, and that's pretty well locked in one way, isn't it? X and x is about the only way you can do x squared. Minus 20, on the other hand, well, that's a little different story. Let's think, and you can make this chart. You don't have to, but just for my illustration here. Yeah, I need to factor up to minus 20, and there's lots of ways to do that. Now, I do have a negative involved, so let's think about that a little more. If I'm going to make it a negative 20, I could either do like a negative 4 and a positive 5, couldn't I? One of them's negative is what that amounts to. Since I'm factoring negative 20, one of the factors has to be a negative. Now, it does make a difference on this to reverse that. If I do a negative 5 and a positive 4, that would be a different way to factor it, wouldn't it? Because that's a negative 5 and a positive 4, and that would be different than a negative 4 and a positive 5, you see. All right. See, negative 20, so I could do 2 and 10, negative 2 and positive 10, or I could reverse that. And again, may not always need it, but always remember you can do 1 and that number, right? So I could do a negative 1 and a positive 20, or a negative 20 and a positive 1. Maybe not necessary to list them all out, but just so you know, there's a lot of possibilities here. I do list them all out here. Now, what's the deciding factor? Well, it's what those add up to be, right? The one that's going to be the right one is going to add up to be what? I need the sum to be negative 8. Yeah, that middle term there, that is what the sum of those needs to be. All right, so what if I get negative 4 and positive 5? Well, that gives me positive 1. It's not it, is it? Negative 5 and a positive 4. Add those up, you get negative 1. So you get a different sum, but it's still not right. Negative 2 plus 10 right here. Positive 8. Hey, we're close. Is that it, though? I need it to be negative 8. So that does kind of narrow it down there. I do the negative 10 plus the positive 2, that does give me negative 8, doesn't it? So that's the one we go with. So what does that mean over here? Minus 10, positive 2 would be the correct factoring of that. Or would it be wrong if I reverse that? No, that would be okay too. It has exactly the same factors. Got x plus 2, got x plus 2, got x minus 10. Those are exactly the same. We got the negative 10 and positive 2. What would be wrong, of course, would this be okay? No. That's, of course, number 3 there that I listed, and we saw that that was not the right sum. It gives me a positive 8 instead of a negative 8. Okay? With me on that? So far, so good? All right. How about y squared y squared minus 6y minus 16. Change it up a little bit. Y squared minus 6y minus 16. I think. Okay, yeah. No, let's do it this way. Y squared plus 6y minus 16. I'll get the one I want here in a second. Y squared plus 6y minus 16. That's the one I want. Okay. Well, it's a trinomial, isn't it? And the way we usually try to do it, trinomials, is 2 binomials. This one just happens to have the variables of y, but that's the same thing as the x's. First 2, well, the y squared, that's what I factor up for the first slot in both, right? So what is that going to be? Y squared, about one way you can do it, right? Y and y. Then the other 2, I'm looking at factors of the last one being minus 16. You think of 2 factors that give me a negative 16. 8 and 2. 8 and 2 gives me 16, but again, it's a negative 16. So I could go a negative 8 and a positive 2. But I could have a negative 2 and a positive 8. And, you know, there are others too, but I think we're pretty close with those. Which one is it? Yeah, if you sum those together, these give me a negative 6. I need them to be summed to be a positive 6, don't I? So it's not that one here. Yeah, if I add those 2 up, I do get a positive 6. Okay? Now, y minus 2, y plus 8. Everybody okay on that? Or y plus 8, y minus 2. Point I would make here is that last one, which was, what was that last one? X squared minus 8x minus 20. It was x, what, x minus 10, x plus 2. That was the previous one. What I would have you note there is that in both cases, the last term is minus. The middle term was plus on this one, the middle term was minus on this one, but that really, I mean, it had something to do with the sum, but with the point I'm making here is if the last term is minus, you notice what these terms have to be? They have to be opposites, don't they? If the last term is minus, then the terms, the binomial terms, the middle sign there, are opposite. One's a positive, one's a negative. Just little things that help you along the way. All right, now